Let's see. So we have a Diablo article, which also came with a video regarding diving into the end game of Diablo 4. So Diablo 4 recently was in open beta and early access open beta last month. Their game is releasing in 2 months, and they have decided to do a video regarding how the end game is going to work. I will just tell you right now, Spoon, I did not watch this video. I know you provided it. I have not looked at this video. I haven't dived into it at all, frankly. Did you watch the video, and do you have any highlights from it?
Sure, yeah. It's only 6 minutes. It's not that long.
Okay.
But this is a very high-level overview
Oh,
of the
absolutely.
end game.
Yeah.
And this video is not for hardcore gamers and Diablo fans and RPG players, and
Okay.
this is for like Joe Schmo who saw a commercial for Diablo
Yeah.
4.
There, you got to get a new
And
player in. You got to get a new player in. Yeah, I get
this
it.
is high level overview. Most of this stuff that they talk about in this video is stuff that, like, if you have been following Diablo 4 and have been reading the like dev diaries and updates that they've done over the months and years the game has been in development, this is all stuff that they have talked about before.
Okay.
So this basically gave no new information.
Got it.
It showed some like in-game footage of some of these systems, so I guess that technically you could glean as new information, but again, it wasn't extended gameplay in any way, so it was, short clips for the most part, so you just see a little bit. But let's see, what do they talk about? They talk about Nightmare Dungeons, which we know about, which is an endgame system where you acquire these things called Nightmare Sigils, I think, which go to a particular dungeon, and then the dungeon gets altered in some way. It has new objectives, new monsters, new like affixes, and it does new stuff basically.
Got it.
That is a main mechanic of the end game in D4 basically.
Got it.
It's, to me, is like replacing what like rifts were in D3 if you played D3 endgame. So they talked about the Paragon boards a little bit, which what people are hoping that Paragon boards are the thing that's going to save the customization in this game.
Yeah.
Because as we talked about, the skill trees are pretty minimalistic.
They're limited.
To be honest, it looks complex, but your choices are very limited.
It's a very linear tree of limited options. Very
linear. You can only pick 6 skills, and again, with the passives, you just kind of take the passives that go with your build, and you can get most of them in most cases.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Yeah, the skill tree is limited. The problem with what they showed of the Paragon board in this, they talked about it a lot, how it's like, oh, this will like change your skills, this will change your build, it allows so many different builds and yada yada yada. But what they showed on the Paragon board when they were actually going through it in the video, or the short clips they showed one legendary node, which are the things you care about.
One legendary node, okay.
And the rest they showed were +5 stat. Like the travel nodes, the things in between the interesting stuff are like +5 strength, +5 dexterity, +5 intelligence, +5 willpower.
Okay.
So they only showed one interesting node, and so there are people that are kind of up in arms like, well, this whole thing just looks like it's
very basic
+5 stat.
It looks like basic stat boosts. Like, that's not good.
So what is this? So the way the system is supposed to work is there's like, it's been data mined, but from the beta, but I'm not going to go off that completely because
things can change. I mean, like, there's 2 months.
Things can change. And supposedly that beta build was at least a couple of months old from what I've heard.
Oh, interesting.
It was like an offshoot build that this is what they do when you make demos, by the way, and like playable builds. Like, you take a build, you're like, all right, this one's pretty decent. We'll take this one and we'll make a offshoot build to like make that the beta.
Yep.
And then you keep developing on the main build
Yeah.
for like the full release, and
Yep.
then you develop, and then you just clean up the beta build and like make it more presentable and playable for the public. And
Yep.
okay, there's that.
Yeah,
build.
that's a common practice.
But yeah,
common dev practice.
From what I heard, Diablo was like 2-3 months old. So, you know.
So we got to build, just to be clear, we got to build from like January.
Yeah, December. I think I heard December. December or January, though, I think.
December, January, got it.
Yeah. So yeah, the build was a few months old.
Yeah, so things could have changed.
So things could change. But basically, like, each class has, like, I think 8 boards. You start on... Every class has, like, a starting board, so you start with that one.
Sure.
And then you progress down the nodes, taking what you want. And then when you hit a gate node, you get to pick your next board, and you can, like... They're squares, basically, so you can rotate the board and decide, like, which side of the board you want to enter it on.
Okay.
And then you progress and go to the things that you want. And every board has, except for the starting board, I think, has, like, there's the normal nodes, which are your +5 stat ones.
Sure.
Those are the most common ones, the common nodes. There's magic nodes, which are slightly better, but are for the most part also seemingly just stat boosts. I saw one that was +7 strength, but then I also saw one that was +50 armor, so that's a little different. Or
yeah,
like fire resist, whatever. So the magic ones are still just stat boosts, but they're slightly better and or slightly more interesting than just +5 strength.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then there are rare nodes, which do something. We don't know. There's an article from way back when where they showed a few examples, but again, that was a while ago, so
things could have changed.
So rare nodes could do something. And then every board has one legendary node, which is the big node for the board that you're going to work towards for the most part if you pick that board.
Yeah.
And then one glyph socket as well, which is a node on the board where you can put in these, like, well, they're called glyphs, and they're a thing that you put in the socket, and then it like activates all the nodes around it, and then the glyph does something by itself and then can have some bonuses based on like how many of the nodes around it that you have selected or something like that.
Okay.
So
okay.
It seems like there could be some good, interesting customization to this. The boards are like pretty big.
Yeah.
And so, and yes, a lot of them are, +5 stat or whatever, but you're going through all that +5 stat to like get to something interesting, hopefully get to something interesting. And so as I said, every class has like, basically 8 boards. Like for sorcerer, there was like a couple of fire, ice, and lightning boards, and there's one for conjuration, and then like one for something else that I don't remember. So yeah, there's like kind of different boards for each build, and we'll see how much mixing and matching you can do, and how interesting the nodes are, and how interesting the glyphs are, and how those change things. So
right.
Sorry, I kind of went off the rails here on the on the.
I mean, that's part
board,
of the end game. Part of the end game. Well, not necessarily part of the like. I don't know if it's strictly end game. Like you get it at level 50.
It's your end game customization.
But
From what we are presuming at this point is at level 50, you stop getting skill points and you start getting Paragon points.
Exactly. That's
and you get 4 Paragon points for level up to level 100, which is the cap. So you get 200 Paragon points, and you can get another 20 for Renown in each of the 5 regions, 4 for each, the max Renown tier for each region. So you get 220 Paragon points, we think.
Yeah.
Unless there's other ways to get Paragon points, which is possible. But
for now, 220 is what we're targeting.
Yeah. But at least 200, probably 220, or maybe a little bit more than 220.
Right.
So
you're doing Paragon boards, you're doing dungeons. I mean, you're doing dungeons. Like let's just keep it simple. You're doing dungeons. I imagine there's more than that. There's probably I don't know what they're going to do with Diablo. I don't know if they said it in the video, but I'm very curious. They had the world boss in the open beta. You could fight the world boss. I'm wondering if world bosses are going to be an aspect of some endgame where you want to fight world bosses to get.
Yeah.
I mean, like the way that people power leveled and got the
Yeah.
best gear in the open beta and actually made things like barbarian and druid work, where they just fought the world boss a ton of times. And
Yeah.
so like I saw a barbarian build because they fought the world boss a shit ton and got all these great items, actually have a barbarian that was like disgustingly strong. And I think there was a rogue build that could solo the world boss.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know Rogue could solo the world boss.
Which is
Barb
silly. So
Barb
silly.
actually might have been the most like properly geared. Barb is probably going to be the best class.
Yeah.
Because you just get more aspects than the other classes because you have 4 weapons and you get 2 two-handed weapons
Exactly. Yeah.
and 2 one-handed weapons. So you just get like 3 more aspects, including one of those that is a two-handed aspect than like every other class.
Right.
So
like if you in this person, like if you can kit your character, so that's why I mentioned world bosses, because okay, world boss was providing like the best gear, not the dungeons. Frankly, like the dungeons were obviously you could get good gear from it, but fighting that world boss provided you like 5 legendary items sometimes.
Apparently there was like a level 35 like unique mob that always spawned in a specific place that people were able to farm in the beta as well for like a bit higher level gear than like what you were supposed to get in the beta.
So
but
I'm wondering if like that'll be a part of it, because it says like overworld experiences is a part. Like I have to imagine world bosses to an extent are going to be like it's like you're doing a raid. You're doing a raid boss.
They didn't really talk about the world boss in this. The other so yeah, I got hung up on the Paragon boards. I'll finish my thought real quick on that. People did not like what they saw of the Paragon boards in this video because, as I said, the clips of it that they showed were almost all of it were them just doing the travel nodes that were just +5 stat, and people are like, what is this? There's no their words are saying like, oh, there's so much deep customization here and blah blah blah, and all this flowery language. It was like +5 strength, +5 dexterity, +5 intelligence,
which isn't
like,
customization. That's just boosted stats. You're not customizing anything.
So people weren't this video I think actually has about 50-50 like dislike from what I've seen, because people were not happy with that.
Ouch. That's I'm gonna open up the YouTube. There's an extension where you can check the like dislikes. I'm gonna maybe like see if I can take a quick look at this. But you have a video that was watched 546,000 times with 12k likes is a really bad signal to me, at least. Like if I see that, I'm like, okay, something happened here. Because usually when you see like this many views,
when I saw it, it was I didn't take count of the view count, but when I saw with someone that had the extension, it had 11k likes and 12k dislikes. So you're actually a little bit more dislikes than likes.
Yeah, so. Which if you're anytime, like for me at least, if you're under that, like I'm gonna say 75. I don't know what the actual like thought process is, but if you're under 75, like 75% likes, 25% dislikes, if you're anywhere like under 75% on that, you did something that people don't appreciate.
If you look at the comments, there's a bunch that say like deep customization, +5 strength, +5 intelligence. Like, they basically just do that thing.
The best part of this video is when the druid walked in and got one shot. What? Wow. The end game will be like getting 85 keys for the dungeon door to open. They turned the bounty board into a tree hoping, hoping we wouldn't notice. Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the other activities. They call it the Tree of Whispers, and yeah, it just looks like it's bounties from D3. It's like this tree that you go to, and it gives you bounties, and then you do the quests that it give you, and then you get rewards. So
yeah, that's that's not very interesting. It's just a thing that games have. This is not particularly interesting though.
And then the last 2 activities that they talk about in this are one's called Helltide, where again, they don't really talk about how or when this activates, but they're like a region of the world will get corrupted by Helltide.
Okay.
So then more and more powerful monsters will spawn in that region, and then you can collect this certain currency from that region, which allows you to open chests in that region for loot and
Good
stuff.
loot.
So
Okay, so you just
yeah.
like cleanse a region, not like completely, but like you fight
Yeah.
mobs that are really strong and you get rewarded for fighting the strong mobs. Got it.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
simplification of it.
it's an open world. It's like, it's an open
Yeah.
world activity, right?
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
stuff's just gonna happen in the open world. Again, we don't know how to spawn it or if it's on a timer or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the thing will happen and then you'll go do the thing. And
Yeah.
then the last thing they talk
Simple.
about is the Fields of Hatred, which is the PvP zone. So
You won't see me there ever.
yeah, you
I
won't
will
see me.
never
You won't
go
see me there.
there.
I'm not in this type of game. I'm not interested in PvP.
No.
But
Not at all.
so from what I've heard, there are monsters there to fight. So there's a bit of like PvE aspect to it, and you collect these shards.
Yep.
And then you have to go to this point to like purify your shards. But they talk about this thing where like, oh, people will know when you're purifying your shards, so watch out. So to me, it's like,
PvP?
so there's just gonna be people that just camp the turn-in point and then
Yeah.
just kill you and steal your shit.
So,
So like,
yeah, it's like a PvE VP, which is
yeah,
PvE VP is like a certain type of person likes that kind of thing. Like, okay, here's an example. Not everybody likes this, but Destiny has something called Gambit. Gambit is PvE VP, where for most of the game you are fighting just hordes of enemies, but your opponent is doing the same thing and they're trying to turn in stuff to summon the boss, and whoever kills the boss first wins. That's the simplification of it. But you can invade other people's region and you can kill them, and that slows them down or causes like the boss to regain health and stuff. So it's not like that, but like, the idea of it being like, okay, like you're fighting mobs, but your opponent has some way to have some kind of interruption to your process.
yeah,
Having the enemy just be able to camp your like turn-ins though all the time, like Gambit and Destiny doesn't do that. Intruding only happens at certain situations. You hit like certain points and you can do that.
again,
Just
they
being
didn't
able
give
to
it-
intrude all the time to me does not sound fun.
To me, it sounds like there's gonna be like one turn-in point, and then when you go to turn, I mean, maybe the turn there's multiple and it like rotates or something like that. I think that would be better probably.
Right.
Because to me, the way they explained it, it's like, yeah, so I'm gonna go around, I'm gonna collect these shards, and then there's just gonna be a party of people camping the turn-in point. When I go to turn in, they're just gonna kill me and take my shards.
Yeah,
And
like that doesn't sound very fun. Like Gambit, there are definitely people that do not like Gambit, which is like PvEVP. And I feel like this is worse than Gambit. This just sounds worse than Gambit because like having people just be able to go, okay, I'm just gonna sit near the spawn. It's just gonna be a constant fight at this turn-in point. That doesn't sound particularly entertaining. Like, I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to like it and blah, blah, blah.
Again,
but like,
we just don't know enough, and like we haven't really seen it in action
exactly.
yet. Again, what they gave was a very high level overview. If you're actually able to like purify your shard, turn in your shards, purify them, then they become like a different currency that's actually permanent, and then you can go to town and actually turn those in for like, loot and stuff. So
I don't know. I'm very skeptical on that. On the Fields of Hatred, very skeptical on that. I don't think I'll ever engage with it. That just doesn't sound
I
very
am
fun.
too, and as we already said, like off the jump for PvP, I don't care about PvP in this game. I don't want to play. I don't want to play PvP.
I'll say on the record that I thought Gambit for Destiny 2 was okay. I don't think it was great. I mean, you had to do it to do your weekly quests, but I didn't think it was horrible either. I thought it was like it was kind of fun when you had people to play with, but it was only fun because the enemy team wasn't constantly intruding. It became less fun when the enemy team intruded. And like the enemy team intruding can be extremely problematic because there are just one-shot weapons. There are weapons that will just one-shot you in Destiny. You just die immediately. So you're like, okay, well, so what ends up happening is you have to like hide. Like I don't want to play that. Gambit's the most fun when you're not doing that, when the enemy's intruding and it's an actual gunfight, as opposed to you just get one shot by a weapon that's like an explosive sniper. It's like a sniper basically that just explodes and kills you wherever you get hit by it. Like that's not fun. That's not fun at all. So
Yeah.
definitely this does not sound fun to me. It sounds like some people might enjoy it, and I'm sure if they do, that's great. To me, this just sounds like a real pain in the ass. And the problem is if we ever have to do it to some capacity, that would be a real downer.
Yeah, the other thing that they kind of touched on in this video is that like they did this like play your thing where it's like if you
Yeah.
don't want to play if you want to only play PvP, you can only play PvP, or if you don't want to play PvP at all, you don't have to engage with PvP at all. You can just do the other
Yeah,
stuff.
I would.
Or if you want to do nightmare dungeons exclusively, you can do that. If you want to do the bounties, they're kind of, again, we don't know if this is the case. It'll probably be more optimal to do everything or like all the different activities.
Right.
But you know, one of the things they were talking about in this video is like, yeah, we have a bunch of different things for different types of people, and you can just like focus on that activity if
Right.
like that's what
and
you
that's
like.
and that's what
So-
it should be. 100%. That's what it should be.
Especially with PvP, because like, yeah, I don't care about PvP. I don't want to play PvP. In
If
this
they,
game.
I feel like if they made that somehow a requirement to some extent, I think that would be a huge, like, there would definitely be people being like, I'm out.
Yeah.
There are definitely people that just want to slay mobs of monsters. They want to grind up their character to slay mobs of monsters and optimize their build against those monsters.
Yeah.
I do think that there is potential in this game to have the world bosses be interesting raids that you can do with groups.
Yeah.
I thought the raid boss, as a side note, which is the world boss, excuse me. I don't know why I keep saying raid boss. World boss, because I think of it as like a raid boss. I thought the world boss was actually pretty well done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There was some frustration,
I think,
fun. With getting one shot a lot, but once you figured out how it worked,
yeah,
they did a pretty good job with it.
Once you figure out its attacks, which like, yeah, you're gonna die a couple of times pretty quickly, probably when you first get in there.
Right.
But with that world boss, for the most part, you just want to stand under its ass
Yeah.
the whole fight.
And its attacks were telegraphed. Like, the mechanics of the boss were great, which I just want to lead into the end game. If that is a part of Endgame that we need to do to grind up effectively, I think that was a huge positive from my experience. I would like to see more of that.
Yeah,
that
I'm
was
sure
fun.
the world bosses will still be an option. I'm sure there's going to be at least 3. You know, I would hope there's at least 1 for every region. So
Yeah,
there's 5
one for every region.
5 of them.
Right.
But we'll see. I would think maybe there would be like a bounty from the tree that's like, hey, kill
the world boss
or something like that. Yeah.
I'd like that. I thought the world boss was really, I mean, like the bosses in general, I thought the mechanics were well done, but the world boss in particular, because when I played Lost Ark, there were world bosses and they were just like, it was a joke. Like,
yeah,
it's not real. It's not like a thing. It's just like a big enemy.
It's a loot pinata. It's a loot pinata.
Yeah, but like you don't even get like the best loot. But like this world boss actually felt like a legitimate boss where you had to understand the mechanics, play around them, and when you did, it was like a real, like it was a pretty serious, sizable threat, and you did die up quite a bit. It was good. So I want that to be part of Endgame for sure. Like that part of the Endgame was great. We talked about dungeons before being like the objectives in dungeons were a joke. Like, I don't know why they did it that way. Like, people complained about the objectives just being very much like, I think I'm just going to call it a time waster. Feels like a time waster. You know, we talked about that.
And it just causes a lot of, like, backtracking
Right.
in the dungeon, which people don't like.
Which is a time waster.
You know?
Yeah, it's just time waster.
And people are like, again, they're like, especially when the objective is like kill every single monster in the dungeon, people really don't like that, because if they like miss one bat that's like right at the beginning, then they have to walk through the entire dungeon and like go kill that bat.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I say talk about this, they're like, I don't care if it's like 95, maybe killed 95% of the monsters in the dungeon and it's fine. Just not every single one. So if I miss that one freaking stray enemy in the corner, then I don't have to backtrack to the entire dungeon to kill the one enemy.
Which has happened to me and I did not like it. I also don't like, I just thought the objectives weren't good. So like that part of Endgame was a minus. I hope they make some changes to that. I mean, like there's a lot there. I feel like there is some positive stuff in the end game that I heard. A lot of it's uncertainty related to Paragon boards so far.
Yeah. I think there's potential in the Paragon boards,
Right.
but it's really gonna matter what those like the legendary and the rare nodes are
Right.
on the boards, and also the glyphs, like how interesting the glyphs are, and
Right.
you know, it's gonna matter what the nodes that we care about. It's gonna matter like what those are and how interesting
Exactly.
they are, and how diverse they are, and you know, making actual like builds and diverse builds, right?
Right.
So.
So, I don't know.
We just don't know that.
There's positive for me and there's uncertainty. I don't think so far I've seen anything. Okay, besides like the dungeons being weird. The dungeons having the objectives, I think, is the only negative I've seen in any sort of end game so far for me. So, like Paragon's uncertainty, a lot of other stuff looks positive. I'm still, even with like people being like, this Paragon board, you didn't show it off in its best light, which you're supposed to do that. Like, if you're trying to show this to a new player, show the best first impression. Didn't seem like they did that. I still have high hopes for this game after playing the open beta. I am looking forward to it still, so definitely, even with hearing the end game, so nothing has deterred me yet.
No, same. For me, like the game has really good bones. It's just really fun to play. It looks really good. The presentation's great. It's really fun to play. The devil's in the details with this one, though, as we've discussed at length at this point. As we discussed, the balance was absolutely atrocious in the beta.
Horrible.
And yeah, they just need to focus on the details, and they need to give us good customization for the end game to make interesting builds.
Exactly. I agree. So yeah, still looking forward to it.
Yeah, same. The last few things I'll mention on this is they say a little bit further down in this article that on April 20th, which is in about 2 weeks, a little less than that now, they are doing they're going to do a developer live stream with guest star Riker, who's a very popular Diablo YouTuber. Where they're going to delve a little bit more into the end game and give some more details, so hopefully we'll get some of the answers we're looking for in that stream. And they're also going to talk about like beta feedback and like what they're going to do with the beta feedback. So
and once again they've promoted the Ultimate Edition. So the Ultimate Edition, I feel like we should just point out, Blizzard's been doing this a lot recently. You can start 4 days early. So the game releases, is it June 6th?
June 6th is correct.
So actually, we should say June 2nd. Because...
Yeah. And actually, okay, I won't say most people, because there's a lot of people in Europe and, like, Asia and Australia. But they, on that point, they put out the global release times for the game. And the release time is midnight on... 0 time zone prime meridian, which is British summertime.
Okay.
So here, that'll be 4 p.m. on June 1st. Because we're 8 hours earlier than British summertime.
I see. So 4 p.m. June 1st.
Or June 5th. Or 4 p.m. June 5th.
Yeah. If you bought the Ultimate Edition...
Or Premium, you can buy the $90 version also gets the 4 days early access. So if you buy the $90 or $100 version, you get the 4 days of early access.
Got it. Which
I think the only thing the Ultimate Edition gives you on top of the Premium Edition is
Battle Pass?
It gives Battle Pass accelerations. The
Yeah,
Premium Edition gives you get the Premium Battle Pass if you buy the Premium Edition.
Right. But one of them accelerates you.
The Ultimate Edition gives like 20 bonus levels or something, like accelerated levels or something like that. So
yeah, that makes. I mean, yeah, it's.
So to me, if you want that, like, I don't think the Ultimate Edition is worth it. I'm on the Standard Edition right now, but I'll be honest, we'll see. I'm probably gonna wait. I'll probably gonna wait until like it comes out in early access and see how terrible the servers are. If it's like unplayable, then I'm not gonna buy it. But if I can actually play like a few days before, I may pay the extra 20 and just upgrade.
My gut tells me that day 1 will be a clown fiesta.
Yeah, day 1 will be a clown fiesta for sure.
But day 2 will be good. That's what.
Day 2 and 3 will probably be fun.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be the same thing like the early access. It's gonna be a clown fiesta, and then they'll figure it out.
The beta,
Yeah. Okay. I don't have any other Diablo thoughts, by the way. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm still interested. Nothing's deterred
Yeah.
me.
I was gonna ask if you wanted to give any additional thoughts after you had played the Necromancer, because that was like.
I mean, the
Before we.
Necromancer is really fun.
Yeah.
Part of the, I did enjoy it. I did the world boss on Necromancer. I like doing the Bone Spear build with it, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed doing that. Is it probably the optimal build? Probably not, but it was at least fun. Barbarian, I think you would need to have an optimized build to make what I saw from other people who like had the perfect build for Barbarian
Yeah.
really viable. But the bleed build for Barbarian was viable for me to do all the stuff that I wanted to do. So I guess that was a positive, that I did find something that worked for me. These are the types of games though you kind of just look up builds, which I'm fine doing, but at the same time I want to be able to. But these are games where you comment, like, I don't want to say how common it is, but like, if you want to have, probably the most success, you're looking at what other people are doing, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to do something like that.
You're right.
That being said, I do wish the Barbarian didn't have to necessarily rely on certain tactics.
Yeah, I think Barbarian and Druid, their early game, like their first 10-15 levels are just super duper rough.
Yeah,
like it's just
I agree.
Bad.
Agreed.
I think it gets, especially Barbarian. I don't know. Druid was just kind of crap throughout, but
Druid was bad throughout.
Barbarian, once you got to 20 plus, kind of felt like it started to come online a little bit.
Yeah,
at least for me.
Barbarian definitely had some builds that worked pretty well at dealing with bosses and things like that. I think just the one frustration is you play Barbarian, you find the build that works, and you're like, okay, this works, and then you play Necromancer like I did, and you're just crapping on stuff, and you're like,
yeah, no, Necromancer is just OP off the jump. It's just like, all right, cool.
And I'm just like, I was just like, these bosses are comical compared to Barbarian, where I'm like actually slamming my keys. The Necromancer, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I mean, it's
like
that was the only thing. The disconnect.
Not only did the Necromancer had minions that did decent damage and were quite tanky.
They were tanky.
And then your main damage skill, whether Bone Spear or the one I used was Blood Surge, that one was pretty good too. Yeah. Did more damage than the Barbarians or the Druids skill did. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
Without optimizing your build, it was doing a ton of damage. That was the problem for me. If you optimize the build, it's totally different story. Doesn't necessarily make a difference.
Oh yeah, just off the jump though, it's just okay.
Off the jump, unoptimized, not even thinking about it. You're just throwing whatever gear you get. You're doing tons of damage, and that to me is the huge disconnect in power level was problematic. So that being said, I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed playing Barbarian once I got things going. I still enjoy Necromancer's great. I'm sure I'm gonna have fun playing around with all those classes except for Druid, because Druid needs to figure its shit out. Even Rogue looks fun. Rogue looks pretty fun. Sorc looks fun.
Rogue for me, that one took some time to come online. Again, the first about 15 levels for Rogue, I was really struggling.
Right.
And then I found a good legendary, and you get access to your imbuement. I was like, oh, okay, now this is online. This is powerful.
At some point, you figure out, okay, something's turning on now. I think Druid was really the only class that just didn't feel like it had a switch that had flipped.
Yeah.
It seemed like, based on what I saw, and just watching people on Druid fighting bosses, it looked horrible.
Takes so long.
I was like, this does not look fun. They need to fix that.
Do no damage.
You gotta fix that. So, still, my final thought on that is still regardless of the power level stuff with the balance, I saw myself having fun with both the Necromancer and Barbarian, and that's what's important. That was important. Anyway.
Yeah, we can move on. I had fun with every class, honestly, in the beta. Druid, even Druid, but I still think, Druid was still fine. It takes longer to kill stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
But
you just feel weak. I mean, that's the problem. Is you
just
feel weak. Which, but you don't want. I mean, you don't want that. Unless it's like a boss, like a world boss, then it's like, okay, like me hitting this thing and doing a little bit of damage, fine. Okay,